So after releasing my breakdown video for Visions Season 2, I noticed that a lot of you very much enjoyed this season, and thanks to all who shared so much love and support for that video, it really means a lot to me. But that being said, I also couldn't help but notice that there were quite a few comments that seemed to think that there is an agenda behind Visions Season 2. Specifically with the idea that all the protagonists are women, and this is somehow illustrative of this woke agenda that seems to permeate through Star Wars. And I will be very honest, I was very surprised that there were so many Star Wars fans out there who thought this was the case. Now, normally I don't really talk about this sort of topic on my channel because usually these conversations end up being overly negative and toxic, and it's just not something I want my channel to be. But in the case for Visions, I felt that I really had to challenge this idea that there is this so-called woke agenda behind it. The people calling Visions woke primarily boils down to the belief that because all the episodes feature female protagonists, it is therefore pushing this woke agenda. Personally, I didn't even realize that the vast majority of the protagonists this season were women, but consider this for a moment. If the world's population is about 50% female, then surely having a female protagonist should be as common as a male protagonist. It's not like women are so rare to the point that having as many of them in Visions 2 would be so outlandish, and the truth is, it isn't. It's also worth mentioning that part of the argument that there is this whole woke agenda behind Visions 2 is that somehow it's being perpetuated by Lucasfilm. But that being said, this couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, part of the excitement and interest in Visions is having these independent animation studios come in and tell their own Star Wars story. The great experiment behind Visions was to allow storytellers from all over the world to tell Star Wars stories through their own interpretations and cultures. And I think for people who enjoy Visions, that's really the main charm of it. And just like the first season of Visions, Season 2 has had studios decide their own characters, their own plots, and their own style of animation. And that's really part of the allure of Visions, the unleashing of creativity without the burdens of canon. Also, if you pay a little bit more attention, not all the episodes of Visions Season 2 only had women. In fact, several of the episodes featured men as well, and in key positions plot-wise. Episode 5, Journey to the Dark Head, had Tool as a co-star, having to face his fears and take on the brunt of most of the fighting, a fully fleshed out character with strong motivations and distinct characteristics. Episode 7, The Bandits of Golak, also featured Churak, a loving brother who was forced to mature beyond his age due to the dire circumstances, acting as a paternal guide to his younger sister. And sure, while he doesn't have all these special force powers, I would still argue that as a character, he had far more to say beyond that. What's great about his character is simply the fact that he is as ordinary as it gets, simply trying to do what's right so that his sister can live a bigger, better life, even at the expense of his own, forcing him to sacrifice his time with the sister so that she may be safe. And I think that is such a fantastic way of portraying a male character that steps out of the usual all-powerful male archetype. The Pit also had the same dynamic, with the male lead having to be the inspiration for others to rise up, and making the ultimate sacrifice for the betterment of others. All of these are not just examples of male protagonists in Visions Season 2, but well thought out characters, each with their own personalities and motivations that adds to the already colorful repertoire of male Star Wars characters. Star Wars has had a long history of featuring male characters, and even if Visions Season 2 predominantly featured female leads, I don't really see the problem. It's not like female characters put into Visions 2 were placed solely because they were female. On the contrary, some of these stories needed a female voice to be featured for the purpose of the plot and overall message. The episode I Am Your Mother purposefully sets out to explore a mother-daughter dynamic that mirrors the often explored father-son dynamic in Star Wars. It takes a tried and tested Star Wars theme and freshens it by using the female voice. It's a heartfelt story about a daughter and her mother overcoming relationship difficulties created due to the social economic disadvantages their family is in. The same goes for sSong as well, which sets out to explore the father-daughter dynamic. And perhaps the most relevant of them all, the Spy Dancer, needed a maternal voice precisely because the story that is being told is about a mother finding hope and faith again through the realization that her long-lost son is still alive. It's a conversation about the all too common brutality of war, whereby children are stolen from their mothers, mixed in with a glimmer of classic Star Wars hope. All of these stories discussed in Star Wars Visions have been done with a very careful hand. Each of them has a distinctive story to tell that goes beyond simply trying to fulfill some hidden agenda. And to realize this, all you really need to do is open your eyes. It's also worth saying that no one is trying to force you to like these things. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions. You can find some episodes better than others, or you can even dislike them all. But that being said, while we are all entitled to an opinion, it doesn't mean that all opinions should be valued equally, especially those when challenged failed to hold up under scrutiny. And if you're someone who feels that way, that Visions is a woke agenda of some sort, then I really feel bad for you, because you're really missing out on some great adventures. It's also worth considering that where Star Wars TV shows are concerned, we've mostly had male leads anyways, especially where the major ones are concerned, from Andor to the Book of Boba Fett to The Mandalorian, which arguably feature men in far more prevalent roles in Star Wars. And I can't help but notice that those same people aren't criticizing those for featuring only male lead characters. Just some food for thought. Now, I'm not trying to outright say that if you think that way, you must be sexist and therefore cancelled. What I actually think is more important is that we all take a step back and reflect on why we think the way we think, and evaluate whether it's a valid perspective or simply a reaction to a preconceived assumption. And for people who think that there is a woke agenda, they need to ask themselves why they really think the way they do. Is it really substantiated by what we see on screen, or does it stem from another reason? I can't really make that conclusion, only you yourself can. Anyways, that's all for this video. As I've mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of making these sort of videos. These sort of conversations can often take away from the enjoyment of watching Star Wars for others, and it is quite tiring to hear the same so-called criticisms over and over again. It also runs the risk of overshadowing the great work these people have done in Visions Season 2. Anyways, that was my 2 cents on that situation. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I'm the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.